What's up, Doc? Yes, if you couldn't tell by the title and thumbnail of this review, today I'm going to be doing a second look, aka revisit edition of another one of my favorite Looney Tunes movies. Looney Tunes Back in Action, the movie. Yes, since today is the 22nd anniversary of Looney Tunes Back in Action, I just figured, why not do a second look, aka revisit edition of this review? Since I already covered this movie a year ago on DVD, and well, I decided to give it a second look treatment by watching it again on VHS. Now, if you guys have seen my original review of Looney Tunes Back in Action, as well as watching the film yourself, or at least saw other people on YouTube talk about it a lot, then you pretty much know what to expect from it. But just in case you guys need a bit of a quick recap or reminder, which is pretty much the point of these revisit edition second look videos, have no fear, there's a Looney description on the back. Yikes! The fate of the human race is in the hands of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, teaming to wreak hilarious comic mayhem in a fast-paced family adventure combining live action, starring Brendan Fraser, Jenna Elfman, Steve Martin, and more, with animation, a hilarious cavalcade of Looney Tunes greats. Join the Toonsters as they tried to obtain the powerful Blue Monkey Gem and stop the Acme Corporation's grab for worldwide domination. Boy, try saying that 5 times fast. Connect your inner Daffy for harebrained wit and mystery most foul. For pratfalls and movie and jokes, for Acme Anvils for Acme Anvils. For more fun than you can catch in just one viewing or more, the lunatics are running the asylum. Welcome to their world. Now, after giving this movie its second look treatment, I honestly think this is way better than Space Jam 2 New Legacy, and The Day the Earth Blew Up. Which, no offense, even though I've heard about those movies, I honestly think this one is the funniest one of them all. I still like how it brought back the classic 2D live action hybrid style. The Looney Tunes are still recognizable. Does have a hilarious plot with a beginning, middle, and end to follow. And I do like how there's so many various Looney Tunes characters that I can name off right now, but we'd be here all day long. And I even love the casting choices for this movie. We all know that Joe Lasky does the voice of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. And I gotta admit, I also like the human casts too. Brendan Fraser plays Damian Drake. Jenna Elfman does a fantastic job playing Kate Hawkman, if I'm saying her name right. And I gotta admit, whenever Steve Martin is on screen as the Acme chairman, he always brings in quite an over-the-top performance whenever he's on screen. And yeah, he is one of those typical villains who wants to take over the world, but in a more comedic way. And I'm not sure if I said this before in my original review or not, but imagine Lex Luthor, the Joker, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and Adam Sandler and Woody Woodpecker being mixed into a blender, and you get the Acme chairman. And yeah, I know you guys are probably going to point out in the comments below that it is quite bizarre for me to compare those guys with Steve Martin's role as the Acme chairman. But I'm just saying, he always brings in a delightful, funny moment here and there. And yeah, well, don't get me wrong, even though I like Don Cheadle's performance as Algae Rhythm in Space Jam 2 New Legacy, another movie that I still defend as a fantastic movie, I think Steve Martin does it better as playing the Acme chairman. And I also kind of, and this might be thinking way too far, but can you imagine if Steve Martin came back to reprise his role as the Acme chairman in the upcoming Coyote vs. Acme movie? I mean, yeah, I know it's a bit of a stretch, and I know that there was probably no news about Steve Martin being involved in Coyote vs. Acme, but just imagine if that did happen. That'd be quite amazing. Yeah, I know. I will point out that the movie somehow didn't do so well in the box office back in 2003. I'm guessing it's just the way Warner Brothers sort of messed up its advertising a little bit. Which I know that 47 cartoon guy probably brought this up in like one of his old videos at some point. But I'm glad this film is starting to get its cult following over the past 22 years. Because I honestly think Looney Tunes Back in Action is just one of those underrated and misunderstood type movies. Just like with Space Jam 2 New Legacy and Scoob being underrated and misunderstood movies. And believe it or not, this movie is actually directed by Joe Dante, who you might know him better as the guy who worked on the Gremlins movies several years earlier, back in the 80s and 90s. And believe it or not, when I first watched this movie, after giving it a second look treatment, I actually heard a little bit of a familiar Easter egg. It goes da 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 da. When Damien, when Brendan Fraser's character DJ and Daffy are about to head off to Las Vegas in their father's car, they were about to drive in a gremlin vehicle, and you can even hear the music score from Joe Dante's Gremlins. Now, I find that to be a very, very, very cool little Easter egg, which I'm surprised I didn't even catch it the first time when I watched. I actually find it weird how I didn't catch on to that Easter egg, despite the fact that I grew up with this movie countless times. Okay, well, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have known about it because, well, I probably didn't even grew up watching the Gremlins movies at all until I started to be more familiar with the first and second movies, thanks to Minty Comedic Arts doing some top 10 facts videos about these, as well as Nostalgia Critic doing a What You Never Knew video about it. And again, no idea how I didn't notice that, but I honestly find that to be a very cool little Easter egg. And speaking of Easter eggs, there are a few cameos from other Warner Brothers characters during the first 20 minutes of it. When DJ starts falling off a set and lands in an airbag, he starts to talk to Batman. Okay, it was actually an actor playing Batman, but I find out to be that is a pretty cool Easter egg, since Warner Brothers does own the rights to DC and Looney Tunes. And in the restaurant scene, we actually saw Shaggy and Scooby argue with Matthew Lillard about his role as, well, Shaggy in the live-action movies. Yeah, I know I probably mentioned that before in my original review of Looney Tunes Back in Action a year ago, which I know that's what you guys are gonna point out. But it doesn't hurt to bring it up again. And you know, I also find it kind of ironic, considering how not only does Matthew Lillard would reprise his role as Shaggy again in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, but he would even voice Shaggy in some of the future cartoons, as well as guest starring as himself in the second season of Scooby-Doo and Guess Who called A Haunt of 1,000 Voices, along with Kate McCucci, Frank Welker, and Ray Griffin. And speaking of DC and Scooby-Doo, I'm not sure if I said this before, but it's also kind of ironic how Scooby-Doo and a few DC characters would end up making cameos in Space Jam 2 New Legacy like several years earlier. I'm not sure if that's like some kind of meta Easter egg or something, but it doesn't matter. And okay, I guess I'm getting a little bit sidetracked right now. I really do love all the action sequences in this movie, and how it's sort of paying homage to a lot of spy-type movies, like James Bond, for example. And I think I mentioned this in my original review of Looney Tunes Back in Action a year ago, but just in case you guys forgot, back when the first Space Jam movie came out, which I might do a second look review of it later this week, Warner Brothers did have plans to make other Space Jam related spin-off and sequels, such as Skate Jam with Tony Hawk, Golf Jam with Tiger Woods, a second Space Jam related movie with Michael Jordan coming back to reprise his role as himself. And funny enough, Spy Jam was actually one of those movies that technically got made and reworked as Looney Tunes Back in Action, and would have had Jackie Chan involved in it. Yeah, I know I said this before in my original review, but and I guess it doesn't hurt to bring it up again, because, well, in my opinion, it probably would have been cool to see what a different version of Looney Tunes Back in Action would have looked like if it was going to be called Spy Jam and had Jackie Chan involved in it. Since, well, I have started to become more familiar with Jackie Chan. Heck, I think I reviewed one of his movies before. I somehow forgot which one it was. I somehow forgot which one of his movies I covered before. Ugh. Man, I think it was The Accidental Spy. Yeah, that's the one. Now, as much as I love this movie, it still would have been cool to see how Jackie Chan would have been involved with this movie. Oh, and I think there was also going to be like some other type of Space Jam related movie called Race Jam, which I'm guessing would have been like some kind of race car like movie with a famous race car driver involved. So I'm glad Looney Tunes Back in Action was made, since I guess not all of these Space Jam related sequels and spin-off ideas went to waste. Warner Brothers did manage to put one of them to good use, which is close enough in my book. Now, I know that you guys probably already know about it, since I mentioned this in my original review. And if you guys saw 3C Films video about all 7 different Space Jam related sequels and spin-off ideas, as well as Dave Lee Down Under making a similar video about it, You guys pretty much know what I'm talking about. And I might leave links to the videos down in the description down below for you guys to check out, so you guys know what I'm talking about, or be more familiar, or at least try to understand what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not sure if Brendan Fraser and Steve Martin are still doing a lot of acting roles in their career. I'm sure one of them are still doing okay. And I bet if any of you guys ever wanted to meet them at a comic book convention, I'm sure you would have had the chance to ask them what it was like to work on Looney Tunes Back in Action. And I guess one of them might say they either enjoyed it, hated working on the movie, or probably split down the middle. I'm actually glad I got a chance to do a second look revisit edition of this movie on its 22nd anniversary. Still hard to believe that Looney Tunes Back in Action has been around for 22 years already. Boy, has time really gone by that fast? Sure seems like it to me. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out this second look revisit edition review of Looney Tunes Back in Action. So, I'll give this movie 5 carrots out of 5, since that's how phenomenal this movie is. And that's all, folks!